guys, what's up? It's GVKcollectibles, and you know what day it is? It is Mythical Mountain Monday, the show where I basically talk about some of my favorite comics that I read last week. And let's just jump right into it. Let me show you my pull stack. Pretty good. There's a few variants in here, which makes sense, but other than that, a lot of great books. Blade Runner, there's Bermuda, which is a continuously fun little book that I read. But unfortunately, it didn't make it in my top 5, but I will show you what my top 5 are. So let's start off with number 5. Number 5, of course, is Godzilla Monsters and Protectors. This is actually the conclusion of this little mini-series from Eric Burnham. And I gotta say, this was a fun, cool little series. Overall conclusions, I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. Basically, it ends with essentially Cedric and Emily and Anderson, along with the Mothra fairy twins, the Shobinjin, I believe is how it's pronounced. For the longest time, I don't know how it was pronounced, but basically they connect with their minds to essentially call Mothra, she looks so beautifully designed too in this, where she's just like kind of she reminds me of the Heisei design, but like a big fluff ball, which is really cool. Basically, we do see a continuation of Godzilla fighting Biollante, and it is really cool to see. And there's like the fight continuously gets really cool. I really love the unique design of how they did Biollante, of how they kind of like put her at the forefront of this story. And there's also, like, with pretty much all these issues, there's cool little references. There's a behind the scenes that clearly shows it's a little thing of Haru Nakajima, a famous image of Haru Nakajima drinking his tea, and also the Space Amiibo, which is another Toho film, which is really cool. But basically, they fly, Emily, Cedric, and Anderson fly on Mothra, and eventually they kind of form and connect with Godzilla in like a kind of astral kind of plane of like thoughts and everything. And basically them convincing Godzilla, it's like, hey, do not destroy the Earth. Like, there are reasons that humans can do better. And this ultimately convinces Godzilla to kind of stop, because at that point with Biollante, he's like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to destroy these humans because they suck. But it's kind of cool just because it's like it's like, oh yeah, Godzilla kind of is giving humanity a second chance, and it's up to them to kind of see that future, the future that they want, because Godzilla's going to be on the lookout for them. There are going to be, I'm going to talk about spoilers just because it is a pretty cool like ending. I think I'm very excited for the continuation of the story. So it ends with the CEO talking about how there's going to be nobody who's going to believe these kids that they saved the world from Godzilla with the help of Mothra. And this is the same CEO who's been working with, like, mainly caused Godzilla's wrath in the first place. But we eventually learn he's not working alone, and the person he's working with is the freaking Exaliens from Invasion of Astro Monster, which is super, like, when I saw that, I was super happy to see that. So yeah, it says the end for now, but I do believe there is going to be definitely a sequel series for this book in particular. As I said, overall thoughts on this book just in general, I think it's really great. It's like, when this trade comes out, if you want to get your kids introduced to Godzilla, and if you, this is kind of a great story for all ages. This is an all ages story. It's really great, and I think it's a great triumphant return for Godzilla into IDW Comics, which I'm very excited about. So with that being said, I definitely recommend Godzilla Monsters and Protectors if you can find all the back issues, or if you just want to wait for the trade, which will eventually come out. Just go to your local comic book shop and just ask to pre-order it. I definitely suggest it. The art's really cool. I love the designs for a lot of the characters. Very kind of like cartoony, like Saturday morning kind of cartoon designs. I really love Godzilla's design. I wasn't too sure about it, but I really do like the design of Godzilla. Mothra's design is probably one of my, like, it's super cute and adorable. Like, she's just this big kind of fluff ball, which I really loved. And the art is killer. The writing's really fun. But yeah, I definitely recommend Godzilla Monsters and Protectors number 5. If you can find when this trade eventually comes out, definitely pick it up. So, with my next comic book, in this story, this is actually the beginning. This is the first issue of Trials of Magneto. This is the fallout after X Factor, essentially, and the whole Hailfire Gala as a whole, with the death of Scarlet Witch, which I was super mad because Marvel didn't wait, like, with that issue of X Factor where there was a death reported. They didn't even wait like 24 hours. They just say, oh, Scarlet Witch is dead. But basically, anyway, we are getting... This is... we basically focus on, since this is done by Leah Williams, who also did X Factor, we follow on X Factor investigating the death of Scarlet Witch, which is really, really cool, along with X-Force and the X-Men, which is really, really cool. And it's really, really cool, like, of this kind of procedural. Then we eventually get Beast and, like, Eye-Boy and Prodigy kind of working to figure out the autopsy of what happened to Wanda. And it's really, really cool. Then we eventually cut to the Quiet Council, and Magneto's kind of pissed that he wants, essentially, Wanda to get resurrected, essentially. And pretty much everybody is kind of against it, because they, Krakoa especially, there's, like, stories going around of, like, Wanda is the pretender, and that of everything that happened with, like, House of X, and, not House of X, House of M, all that stuff, the decimation, a lot of people still blame a lot of that stuff for what happened on Scarlet Witch, which is very interesting. Basically, but it's also to note that we see Magneto, so instead of seeing Magneto in his usual white, which he's been mostly portrayed throughout all the books, essentially, up until this point, he's wearing a black outfit, this kind of, like, black outfit. So he's essentially pissed that the Quiet Council is not going to resurrect Wanda, essentially, which, like, I kind of get it, but it kind of also makes it look like he is kind of the guilty party in this kind of situation. As of soon, eventually, after getting meeting with the Quiet Council, he sees basically everybody celebrating that Wanda's dead, like, the pretender is dead. And he's kind of pissed about that. He doesn't really say anything, but he's just like, you can feel it. He's eventually confronted by Northstar and the X-Men, and there's a big old fight that goes on with them. And it's beautifully done, too. I really love the writing and everything within this book. And it's also, like, you get to see Tommy, who is, of course, Wanda's son, kind of mourn her death. And currently, right now, where Wiccan is, he's off doing his own thing with, like, I think there's a big old event going on right now with Guardians and stuff. So, he's like a ruler of a kingdom with Hulkling, so it's, like, kind of hard for him to be there. But it's actually cool because we actually get a moment with Vision, and he's actually, like, distraught by this. Even though Wanda is, like, they're not a thing together anymore, he still has feelings for her, which is really, really cool to see. But it's so cool that eventually Polaris, who essentially, she has similar powers to Magneto, but, like, she's kind of like, hey, just stop this. And Magneto becomes essentially a bastard again, really, like, kind of, like, attacks Polaris. And Polaris is really affected by this, because it's like, they were getting, like, even in X Factor, and even, like, I think, Powers of X and everything, you could see that they were kind of mending that relationship with each other, because, like, he put so much focus on Wanda and Pietro, but, like, she is pissed, and, like, goes all out. Then we eventually, like, Magneto's eventually taken away, the X-Men don't know where, and we learn it's Pietro beating the shit out of him. And Northstar eventually manages to stop him, and it's, like, this really touching moment of where Northstar's like, you're like, Pietro is like, I failed to protect her. And it's very, very sad, just because and we also get eventually, because Quicksilver beat the shit out of Magneto, of where he is on the verge of death, essentially, so they take him to the Healing Gardens, basically. Jean eventually explores Magneto's mind, and at the end, there's a really, really cool thing. We get actually a dialogue going on with somebody that we don't know until the very end, but we actually see, like, Quicksilver, along with other members of the original Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, essentially taking a drink for Wanda. But what we eventually learn, we actually see the death of Wanda, but at the same time, it's like, she's like, I grieve myself because I was killed, I died, and yet I I know that I'm not dead. So something's clearly going on. We don't know exactly what that is and what it entails, but god damn, this book is incredible. Leah Williams does a great job. Look at Lucas Werneck and Edgar Delgado, who is a color artist. They do such an amazing job. The book looks super pretty. I'm very excited to see this continue 5 issues. It's very much looking like Magneto is the guilty part. So what the major theory is going around is the reason Magneto killed Scarlet Witch was, one, so she can get resurrected and kind of, I assume, become a mutant again. That's essentially what I'm thinking, and I think this is also a way for them, with Wanda being as popular as she is, to make her a mutant again, because, you know, they have Fox now. So, but anyway, I definitely suggest Trials of Magneto if you can find copies at this, at your local comic store still. Get it on your poll if you want, like, because it is just amazing. Lena Williams is probably one of my favorite X-Writers. There's the whole group of the X-Writers is really good, but I really loved X Factor. I'm really sad that book got canceled, but I'm very happy that she is, Lena Williams is on this book, because I really love her as a writer. Now we jump into my next book, and it is War of the Bounty Hunters #3, The Crimson Blade. Now this story continues to be really cool. So there was 2 Star Wars issues that came out this previous week. It was War of the Bounty Hunters and along with the main Star Wars title. And this book continues to be really cool, really badass. So it comes to the conclusion of where Darth Vader's like, I'm taking Han Solo, and Jabba the Hutt's like, oh come on, that's kind of bullshit. You can't take him. But we actually get cool moments with Boba Fett and like Leia, Chewbacca, and Lando, which is really cool because you don't really you never really saw those characters interact with each other in the main movie. So it was really cool. It was also cool to see like kind of Lady Kira kind of like figuring out what to do. Santa and Afra kind of they're bouncing essentially, just because if Afra's seen by Vader's gonna freaking kill her. There's actually a cool moment where that I was like, oh damn. So the braids on for those of you who know, like Boba Fett's design, the braids on his like armor, those are actually Wookiee hairs, which I didn't know. And Chewbacca gets super pissed off at Boba and like tries to kill him essentially. It's pretty cool because it's like, once again, you're getting to see like a lot of characters that you normally don't get to see react out of the main movies and stuff, but also like you would also see that, like, granted you would see a lot of this stuff probably in Legends too, but it's super cool to see this in form of comic book, and especially how Boba Fett's getting the push. And actually Boba Fett actually holds his own pretty well against Chewbacca, which is really cool. Kind of show that he is the most dangerous bounty hunter in the world. And he eventually sets Chewbacca on fire, which is really like, it's like a holy shit kind of moment. But eventually Kira talks to Lord Vader, and like, it's like, hey, like, I don't mind you taking Han Solo at all. It's just the money. And Vader's like, I'm not gonna pay shit. So eventually Vader launches his lightsaber, and also Kira ends up fighting Vader, and she actually, who is assumingly this is after she being trained by Darth Maul. It's really cool to actually see her fighting with Vader, which I never thought I would like kind of see this character, and she's actually holding her own pretty well against Vader for the most part, which is really cool. And it's actually cool because there's eventually a moment where when Kira is fighting Darth Vader, Boba actually lines up a shot at Vader's head to kill him. But then he remembers on Cloud City that he was able to block a blaster fire out of nowhere. So he's like, fuck. He's like, shit, that's not going to be able to work. So it's really cool. I really love moments like that of where like kind of Boba Fett's like kind of like learning his experience of working with Vader, which is really cool. Then eventually Vader gets the upper hand and Luke arrives. And then eventually Vader learns that Luke's presence. And he's like, hey, we got unfinished business. You come down and face me, or I'm going to cut Han Solo in half, and that's where it ends. It continues more in the main Star Wars book. And basically what that kind of concludes to is Vader, like, Luke actually kind of replays a lot of the scenarios of when he was on the Cloud City duel, which was really cool, of like what he can do better and what he can improve of like using the Force and stuff. But eventually, like, when he learns like Vader like calling him out essentially, he's like, I can't do it. And it kind of ends on there. But once again, this series by Charles Soule continues to be absolutely outstanding. I think it is such a fun, unique book. Like, it's very Star Wars. It feels very much like Heir to the Empire. Also, you're getting really cool covers, like this whole, like, I would honestly love to have, like, a poster of this, because it is such a cool, like poster background. I really love, like, the focus on Boba Fett, like, this is being a big kind of bounty hunter Boba Fett story. I can't wait for more of the issues to come out next month. Of course, the main title isn't a monthly title, so, like, it comes out every month, so this comes out on every month, but you do get a lot of the tie-ins that fill in the stuff, which normally I would be kind of against, but since there's only, like only a few Star Wars books, including a few one-shots, I don't find it to be that big of a deal. Because it's like, I'm currently reading all the Star Wars books, so it's like, not to worry. It's a little different. It's like if you're trying to read an event with, like, all the Marvel characters, like, all the superhero characters were Marvel. It's a little different because you got, like, 50, maybe 50 books to go through, like, including tie-ins and a main title. But yeah, Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters, Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters #3 continues to be awesome. This was called The Crimson Blade, and they actually did announce a new series, which I think is actually going to be a sequel series to this book, called, I think, The Crimson Dawn, I believe. I could be completely wrong, but it's going to be a sequel series to that, and it's going to be fun. So it's going to focus on Kira more. So, when my number 2 comic, so my number 1 and my number 2, these were the comics I read first when I got home, and they're both so good. But I decided to put this one as number 2. It is Nightwing 83 from Tom Taylor. Now, this book is the ending of the first arc with Tom Taylor. And man, what an arc. Like, this is such, I'm in it for the long haul with this book. I think it is such an amazing book. So it kind of basically continues off the end of where Blockbuster is going to kind of raid Mayor Zuko's building with Dick Grayson's in it. And, like, Dick Grayson's like, I'm not, like, and Barbara's like, you're not in a position to fight, essentially. And it's basically, we kind of learn more that, like, his sister Melina Zuko is essentially like his sister, and he kind of believes it a little bit more. And basically, they set up a whole plot of where, like, Zuko and her like bodyguard essentially get wrapped up, tied up, thinking that they were attacked by Nightwing. Nightwing eventually escapes, fighting Blockbuster, and it's actually a really, really cool fight. Like, once again, this book is visually beautiful and really, really well done. Dick, like, is so, like, and it's really, really cool. Like, the art's really, really cool of how well, like, the action scenes flow together is really, really great. Eventually, after this, we kind of realize that Dick has a plan for what he wants to do with his money. He talks to people. He talks to Leslie Tompkins. He talks to the Titans, Lucius Fox, which is really, really cool. And we get a really, really cool moment with Superman talking about the idea, and Superman's like, yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful idea for you to do this. And I really love it just because it harkens back to that relationship that they both have, of where really Superman was the one to give Nightwing, like Dick Grayson, the Nightwing moniker, telling the story of Nightwing, who was a Kryptonian superhero, hero on Krypton. So it is really, really cool to kind of see that. Eventually, we kind of allude that Superman's going to be going away. He's going to be doing his own cosmic thing. And basically he tells Dick, it's like, hey, a lot of things are going to fall on my son. And it's like, I think it would be cool. I would love you to give him some guidance. Which is really, really cool. I love this relationship between Superman, like Clark, and Dick. It's really, really cool. And eventually, Barbara, all the news is around there, like, and Dick's kind of nervous, but eventually we kind of get vindication where Barbara kisses Nick, and that makes me happy. Now, I don't know if they're in a relationship, but I think it was just kind of a good luck. I am very interested to see. And Dick gives out a whole great speech of, like, what he wants to do with Bloodhaven, like, really helping, like, ensuring, like, homeless people have homes, like, employment and everything, to kind of, like, make the world better. in Bloodhaven, and making it all around, but a lot of the money will go into Bloodhaven, like renewable energy, like really improving this city. And eventually this program, we learn of what it's going to be called, and he's like, it's the Alfred Pennyworth Foundation, which is really, really cool. And eventually we get to see the Bat Chat finally, which was alluded to, I think, in 78, I believe, with the first issue, and it's super, super cool. And it's super fun. Cass is crazy on the emojis, but it's really, really cool, because eventually Bruce calls him, and it's like, you honored him today. And it's such a cool moment, and it's also what I learned from a comic book group I'm in. The photo that they use for, like, Bruce and, I think it's Bruce and Alfred, is actually one from a Tom Taylor story, which is super, super cool that they were able to do that. And then we eventually get to learn about Heartless, who is kind of like the CEO dude. We don't know exactly what he is, but either way, this was such a, like, a heartfelt issue, I think. Really, really well done. Tom Taylor, I think, really does really well with these types of characters of, like, really great optimism. I love Dick Grayson as a character in Nightwing, and I think Tom Taylor as a whole really embodies of, like, what makes Dick Grayson great. This whole first arc was really, really great. I'm going to stick on this book till Tom Taylor leaves. I think he is a great writer. I love that. This is actually my first, like, run of reading a Nightwing book, but it's like I've always loved the character of Nightwing. So yeah, I definitely suggest. So a trade is going to be eventually coming out for this whole this first arc, which is going to be definitely suggest checking it out, which I would recommend. And I think it's a beautiful book. It's beautiful drawn. And it's beautifully drawn, and it's beautifully written by Tom Taylor. So I definitely suggest Nightwing 83. And as I said, my final book, as I said, this was a really tie between this book and Nightwing. I felt like both those books were really, really freaking good. But this one really shocked me. It is Moon Knight number 2. I think I actually had Moon Knight number 1 as one of my recommended books for the past few weeks. But man, this book, like, I think it just shows that this book has so much potential for the story. We eventually run into, like, there's somebody controlling the neighborhood essentially with all these old people, and they're all pretty much saying the same thing, because I hunt for the sport of it, which is assumed that they're all being controlled by kind of like one central kind of hive mind. We actually get cool moments with Moon Knight and his brand new oh my god, I can't remember her name. Let me find it. Reese. Oh my god. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. So, Reese, him and her having a conversation, kind of talking, because they have, like, weird. Moon Knight has a weird schedule, and he's in the Moon Knight moniker for right now, and it's really, really well done. Eventually, this guy who we saw at the beginning called Soldier comes in as he's all bloodied up, essentially from the attack, and he's seeing that it was a bunch of elderly people, like, beating the crap out of him, and he is like, and Moon Knight's sorry. He basically explains, it's like, hey, I'm sorry that I couldn't, like, help you. It was you're my people, and I wasn't patrolling, so I need to change that pattern. It's actually really, really cool, and I gotta say, the art is so fantastic in this book, especially, like, Moon Knight himself is really, really good. And then eventually, Moon Knight and Soldier eventually go to their apartment, and they see this janitor named Haley. Moon Knight seems something of a suspicious about him. Then eventually, they get to his apartment. Then they are surrounded by old people. Soon enough, we reveal that Haley is actually in the control of all these old people, essentially. And Moon Knight's kind of, like, pissed, essentially, and it's like, and he's, like, basically trying to get, it's like, who are you working for? And it's like, you see. And basically, Holly is kind of using his power just for the fuck of it, and it's actually really, really cool, because eventually what we learn is that how he's able to control all these elderly people. Are essentially, his sweat gets into the water essentially and controls them, because they're a little easier to control. But unfortunately, we eventually learned that like this was at first because it was very not that strong, but now like he's able to control younger people, especially Soldier, who's got a gun pointed to his head. Then eventually, it's actually really cool. So Moon Knight's like, hey, how about I have a taste of your sweat? Like, go man to man. So like, you and me, brain to brain, which is very, very interesting. Then we eventually get this cool ass scene of where Haley is entrapped with Mark Spector's mind essentially, and it's not a normal mind. It's like crazy because there's this whole moon god, like this giant persona of him, and the art is so beautiful on this. It is super, super cool. Like, the art is just fantastic. Like, essentially when he was touched by Khonshu, when he came back to life, his mind was re-altered, essentially. It's no longer, like, a regular human mind. So, like, I assume for a lot of people, he, like, especially, like, psychics, like Jean Grey, Moon Knight's probably a freaking nightmare to work with. But it's actually cool, because eventually, it's, like, this big kind of persona of Moon Knight eventually takes Haley's like subconscious and actually wraps him into like this tomb, and it's actually pretty cool because you actually get to see like all the different kind of like these different sleeves here, and they're all the different personalities of Moon Knight. So you got Mark Spector, Grant, and Lockley, which is crazy to think. And eventually like everybody goes back to normal, and it's just kind of crazy and unique. Like, this Moon Knight book is very, very fun and, like, just crazy fun. Like, I think it's just really, really cool that they're exploring this kind of side of this character. He's a very unique character. This is also my first run with the book, but it is so, like, it's so beautiful. McKay does a really, really good job with writing, and he's kind of, like, I love the idea of him bounce, like, between different personas, even, like, not to, like, glorify like the idea or anything, but it is very interesting and very cool of how it's being approached in this book, I think. And I think it's like really, really cool. I really enjoy the art style. The writing is really, really great. The stuff that got me immediately is like when his mind, like essentially what we're looking through his mind is like crazy, of like this giant Moon Knight. It's really, really cool and really, really well done. Like, this is one of the first like non-X-Men books I've been reading, other than like Shadow of the Spider, but like this is the actually like non-X-Men ongoing that I'm reading, and it is super crazy, man. I really love this book. So yeah, I definitely suggest read Moon Knight #2. McKay does a fantastic job of writing. The art is super, super killer in this book. Very, very unique looking. The first issue is also, I think you can find this first issue if you have, you shouldn't have a problem finding the first issue, depending, but like that first issue, I would definitely suggest getting this on your pull. So yeah, this is my #1 recommendation, Moon Knight #2. It is just such a fantastic book, and crazy too. And also, just the hype for this character is going to continuously go up as soon as the show comes out, which is going to be incredible. I'm very excited to see what they do with the show, so yeah. And also, you're getting killer covers with each issue too, which is super, super cool. So yeah, that's my #1 recommendation, is Moon Knight #2. So with that being said, that's Mythical Mountain Monday, guys. Hopefully you liked my picks. I know I enjoyed quite a bit of them. Sorry about that, guys. The dogs interrupted me. So anyway, make sure to hit like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, as I said. And also, check us out on, well, just so you know, we upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We got Mythical Mountain Monday, of course, on Monday, What's in the Box Wednesday, and Figure Review Fridays on Friday. So, yeah, with that. And also check us out on Mercari and our Instagrams, and also my Facebook page. Every links will be all down below, so you can follow us with, like, whatever, like Funko Pops and, like, Instagram. I usually post a lot of cool photos, too, so just for new viewers. But with that out of the way, that's everything. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Hopefully it is safe, and hopefully not. It's pretty uneventful, I hope. So with that being said, hope you guys have a wonderful day, and peace.